an epic countdown.
How's it going today, guys? We are live with StickTalk Podcast. It's your host, Drew Richard and Ian Jenkins. Today, we are with a special guest, Zach Collins. Played a part of 4 big league seasons, and he's currently with the Cleveland Guardians organization. How are we doing today, Zach?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad, man.
This podcast is also brought to you by Mind Baseball. They have the hardest wood on the market by 9%. I love saying that.
Just got to start it out
So,
hot.
Zach,
Got to start it out hot.
Got to start it hot. Got to start it hot. Nice little icebreaker right there. Anyway, Zach, so talk to us, man. Growing up, what made you stick with baseball? Because you're a big physical guy. You probably could have played any other sport you wanted to. Why baseball?
Yeah, so I played baseball actually since I was like 2.5 years old. So that was my first ball team. Honestly, for whatever reason, I just got super into it. Obviously, I was decent at it at a younger age, so I was able to stick with it. Just rolled through coach pitch. I made some of my best friends ever. Younger years in baseball and stuff like that, and rolled with it through high school. And I played 1 year of football, but had never been hit like that before. So after that,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah.
So at an early age, did your parents play at all? Dad play? Did your mom play softball?
My dad actually played football growing up. He played football through high school, and then he was in college, and then tore up his knee, and then that's it. But
Okay.
yeah, so no baseball growing up. My dad played softball, like slow pitch softball afterwards, but
Yeah.
yeah, nothing like that. I don't really know what made me get so into it so early, but yeah.
That's interesting.
great.
So there wasn't much baseball in your family, and then you became a baseball player, and then you made it to the highest level. Like for me, like that wasn't the case. My dad played baseball, so growing up, so I was always going to play baseball. I never really had a choice, right? It was since I picked up the bat when I was 3, kind of thing. So talk to us, like growing up playing baseball, and your dad not having a baseball background. Did you guys go and seek outside training, or did you guys just hit in the backyard? How'd you do that?
We usually just hit the backyard, honestly. My dad coached me throughout all of like T-ball, little league, all that kind of stuff, travel ball. I'm sure he did some research on the side, but I didn't know about it, and we kind of just went with the flow. And he was the one that always kind of threw to me in the cages afterwards, and coached me forever. So I learned pretty much everything hitting wise from him, and then we were fortunate enough to have some pretty good players and coaches growing up, and learned a lot from those guys too. So yeah, I didn't really I started seeing like an outside hitting coach maybe coming towards the end of high school. I would go to Sosa in Hialeah. A lot of guys go to him. So yeah, I still go to him.
Palm up.
Yeah, so yeah, he's been good for me, and that's about it. It's just been that's it.
Definitely. So, like, was there ever a time, Zach, where you were thinking, like, oh, like, I'm pretty dang good at this thing? Was there like a specific moment, or it was just kind of like as you were growing up, you're like, I'm a guy?
I think it was more as I was growing up, to be honest with you. I after like coach pitch, like 5, 6, maybe 7 years old, joined like the travel ball team. We kind of, the dads. I'm sure I'm gonna get this hopefully one day, but the fire to like create the biggest, baddest travel ball team with all the best players. That's kind of how we were, and got all the best players from South Florida, and we were really good. So I think like just winning tournaments and being around good ball players, that kind of builds the confidence, and yeah, from a younger age, I always had pretty much confidence that I would be able to move on to a higher level. I didn't really know obviously about professional ball and the big league hard it was or whatever, but just kind of looking one step ahead to high school and then to college and whatever. But yeah, I knew all along, I would say.
Nice.
So
nice.
then, like, so would you say big league dreams right out the gate, or when did those like big league dreams kind of start coming to you?
It's kind of hard to say exactly when, but I will tell you a story. When I was 8 years old, my dad worked for Toyota, so he was a service director for Toyota, and he would do work Harry Hill's car, which is the first base coach of the Marlins at the time. Long-time infield guy. He's pretty big time in pro ball, but the Marlins in 03 went to the World Series, and Perry Hill just called my dad up one day. He's like, hey, my dad had pictures of me all over his desk hitting and all that kind of stuff. So he's like, hey, if you want to come to the game tonight, I got you guys 2 tickets to the World Series. So it was pretty sick. We show up there. We had no clue what we were getting into. I'm getting all the lanyards and all kinds of stuff like that. And I was 8 years old. We walk up. We were sitting right behind home plate, and it was like the coolest thing ever. And all of a sudden, we start talking to the family next to us, and the dad was like, "Hey, man, you play ball and stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What do you play?" And at the time, I was a shortstop and pitcher, and I was like, "I play short and I pitch." And he's like, "Oh yeah, my son's a pitcher." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, where's your son?" And he's like, "Oh, my son's the one pitching right now." And it was Josh Beck. And I was like, it was crazy. Long story short, we're sitting in the family section. Didn't know about that with Perry Hill, but we're sitting next to Beckett's family. We're sitting next to Juan Pierre's family. It was so sick. And then after that, obviously, I became a huge dream on the field.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So fast forward to high school a little bit. So you really started gaining some attention in high school. You're on some of those elite teams with some super elite players. What made you got drafted out of high school? What made you decide to turn it down and go to Miami?
So I grew up a Miami fan. Roger, I grew up watching. He was one of my favorite players, Asmani and Yonder and all those guys. I was right down the street from them. Went to a bunch of their games. Committed there, right at the beginning of my sophomore year in high school. And so I was committed there for a long time. Knew the coaches well, and I had a little off senior year of high school. So I kind of felt like I deserved more. I was better than what I was being offered, and I just kind of came up with a number before the draft, and like a lot of guys do, and I was $50,000 away from the number that I came up with, and thank God they were $50,000 away because it worked out great, and I went to Miami and had some of the best times of my life. Went to the World Series twice and stuff. So, yeah, it was a great experience. Yeah, thank God. Go ahead.
Time I ever met you, I was on a visit myself at the University of Miami, and the 2 things that stuck out to me were you and Willie Abreu. Willie Abreu, because he's probably the nicest human being I ever met, which you can probably attest to. And I noticed something that I saw. Well, for the first time, I heard the term "easy." And that's when you stepped in the box. Coach Morris was telling me about it, and your swing was so easy. It looked like you were swinging at 70%, and it would just look like a golf. Bam, bam. Is that something that's always been a part of your game?
Yeah, I really learned how to do it in college, I'd say. I had it in my early high school years. As a freshman in high school, I think I hit like 10 homers. Then I went.
Whoa. South Florida, that's great.
And then my senior year, I hit 4, which is terrible. But yeah, I had a little off year, but after that, I really learned how to do it in college. Just kind of using all parts of the field was, I think, the biggest thing. In high school, I was hitting a lot of balls to right, but I kind of had it honestly growing up. I've been pretty blessed in this game, and yeah.
Definitely. And throughout Zach, obviously you've had tons of successes. But what was a defining moment that you found as failure? Like wherever it was growing up, high school or in college or whatever it may be, where was that defining moment of failure that you had to kind of bounce back from?
Yeah. So going into Miami, obviously I was, a bigger prospect for them coming in, and I had like one of the best fall semesters of my life. I hit like 400. It was my first year. I set a really good first impression. I was the starting first baseman on opening day, hitting third as a freshman. I don't know why it was like this big thing, but it was like the first freshman to hit third since Pat Burrell and all that at Miami.
Wow.
Everyone was making a huge deal of it. So obviously, like, I got this weight on my shoulders. Like, I gotta do something, and that never really works out when you feel that way. So I started off my college career 0 for 17.
Ooh.
And I first hit. I slowly started dropping in the lineup. I got my first hit against Florida, which was a homer, which was nice because as a packed stadium, it was a big time homer. So
Yeah.
I was then 1 for 18 with a homer. Then I went 0 for 17 again, and then I hit another homer. Yeah, so I was 35 with two homers.
2 homers.
You're right, and like as a college coach, you don't like that. You know what I mean? Like, so I totally I understand where Morris was coming from, but man, I ended up being benched a couple weeks later. Like, I think it was 3 maybe 4 weeks into the season, and myself on the bench. It was actually in Georgia Tech. I have a lot of my family there. A lot of my family lives in Georgia, so it was like the first time I was ever benched in my life, honestly. And I didn't even know what to do with myself. So I go back home after work on everything, really. Just I'm going to the cages after practice with my dad. I'm going to Sosa. I'm going wherever I need to go to figure this out. And I think that was like the turning point of my career. I ended up, like, the next weekend we traveled to NC State. I'm back in the lineup hitting 9th or 8th, whatever it was. And I just like absolutely went off. Like, I think I hit like 2 homers in 2 of the games. So I was at this point, I'm like hitting like .095 with like 5 homers. And yeah. And I just a really, really good series. Then I just kept it going through the rest of the year. I just got super hot. After that, I hit like 450 for the rest of the year, and I ended up hitting like 300 with however many homers. I was like freshman of the year and stuff. So
wow.
it was the turnaround in my life because I didn't know how it was going to. Honestly, I was thinking about transfer, doing all kinds of stuff. This is not going to work, whatever. But yeah, you start thinking about everything you possibly can do, but stuck it out and it worked out.
I like that. So you kind of felt like you're in a position where, and your response was to fight. You started hitting more, you started working harder, and then you eventually started making a turn. Can you talk about some of the actual adjustments you made in your swing to compete at that level?
Yeah, so the biggest adjustments to my swing I made were probably in pro ball. I think the adjustments that I made in college were more approach-wise. Just the thought of when you're stepping up to bat and you feel like you have to do something, just trying to hit a homer every single pitch you swing at, it doesn't really work out, especially when you got pretty good arms in the mound. And so I didn't really make any adjustments swing wise in college, but in pro ball you're facing Friday nights or better every single day. These guys they're all throwing 92 to 97, 98, 100. And if they're not, then they have just nasty off-speed stuff. And if most of them have both. So I had a big hitch in my swing. It's slowed down a lot through the years, but I just became a lot more consistent at putting the barrel on the ball. That's really what it comes down to in pro ball, because between a wood bat and guys throwing the way they are, it really just comes down to how many times can you put the barrel on the ball throughout a season. And you have 162 or 150 games depending on where you're at, and consistency is a huge thing. If you look at the guys who are good in the big leagues or the best in the big leagues, it's how many times can they put the ball in play with a barrel on it, and that's really down to. Shorten my swing, shorten my stride, kind of made a few adjustments here and there to stop striking out as much. And these pitchers are going to make adjustments to you, and there's so much information out there that, yeah, I mean, you just have to adjust it and year by year. So,
yeah. Would you say that, as you've progressed through the swing journey, in this hitting journey, that you've kind of learned to do a little bit less? That's what it sounds. You've learned to do a little bit less and put the barrel on the ball more. Probably less emphasis on power and just letting your natural ability play. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, 100%. I think at this level, at least, pretty much 95% of the hitters are to hit a homer. It really just comes down to, I don't want to get too much analytically, but
oh no, we're here for it, bro. We're here for
it. Yeah, how many times you put the barrel on the ball at a certain launch angle? That's really all. Those are the guys who hit 40 or 50 a year. That's like the difference between. Obviously, you got an Aaron Judge and a Pete Alonso who are just these Shohei's super young athletic guys, but yeah, the guys who maybe are a little bit smaller, like an Acuna, for instance, like he's not. Yeah, he's still a freak. Let's not take that away from him, but he has to do a little bit more than Judge and be a little bit more consistent as Judge too. And yeah, I mean, it really, these guys are putting sliders down and away out to right center. They're putting fastballs up and in out to left. It's like it's amazing what they're doing, and it really just comes down to consistency and quickness.
I love that.
Definitely.
I love that.
And going back a little bit to just when you were initially struggling with that, like 0 for 17 bomb, 0 for 17 again. I know you said it wasn't more so as much it was mechanical as it was mental. What were some of the mental adjustments at that time that you had to do to make sure you could get yourself right?
Yeah, I think just like we were saying, like stepping in the box and feeling like, I'm here to do damage, but at the same time, I can shorten everything in the box and just, I started hitting a lot more balls opposite field. With that comes an approach that, you want to stay short to the ball. You want to, stay on off-speed pitches. You want, I think for the most part, most hitters know how to pull the ball or have done that their whole life. So that's going to kind of come naturally. I think, just the, not anxiety, but stepping in the box and having a pitch come at you, you're going to be a little bit sped up. So slowing everything down and staying on pitches and sometimes getting jammed here and there. That's part of hitting. Yeah. The best hitters freaking break 50 bats a year. So, that happens a lot and what I've learned through the years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. So let's talk about that a little bit. He said the best hitters get jammed a lot. And the reason why is because not only are they selling out to stay inside the ball, but they also are tracking the ball for longer, giving them the ability to make a better swing decision. So it's okay to be late. You cannot be afraid to get beat by the fastball. Your fear of getting beat negates any other pitch you can hit, because if you're scared and jumping on the fastball, everything else the pitcher has is slower, and you're pretty much screwed after that. So that's for the kids out there. Can you talk a little bit about pitch recognition and when you started to be able to recognize pitches?
Yeah, honestly, my dad threw forever. He was never the batting practice thrower, but he always threw hard and he always threw a bunch of different pitches at me, and we would always end every single hitting session with scenarios. So first and second, nobody out, second and third, first and third, all that kind of stuff, nobody on. And he'd pretty much just try to strike me out, and he would throw fastball, slider, whatever he knew how to throw, and he's just gripping the ball differently pretty much and throwing it in there. But yeah, I think that's kind of how I've gotten my eye through the years. I've tended pretty good eye in college and everything like that, and took my walks even in pro ball and stuff. But it just gets harder and harder as you go on, and to continuously stay on top of that and maybe see pitches off the machine. Nowadays there's so much technology in these new machines that can throw exact spin rate of certain pitchers and all stuff. I mean, I know not everybody has it, but even just seeing sliders and curveballs, good fastballs off machines can help a lot. But yeah, I've always kind of walked up with an approach of like looking for the fastball middle, and going off that, because there aren't many guys that can throw a pitch that looks middle, and all of a sudden it's a ball. So if I'm sticking approach, then I tend to swing at strikes and swing at good pitches to hit. But there are some guys that, all of a sudden you think you're getting a heater middle and you're swinging at a curveball in the dirt or something. It's wild.
Yeah.
So let's say you're in BP and you see that middle fastball. If you're hitting the ball perfectly and you're right in tune with your swing, where does that ball go?
Left center, line drive to left center, especially in BP. Yeah, as guys started throwing harder, I've kind of had to lower my sight and lower my launch angles and stuff in BP, just because you want to stay on top of those balls. And in the game, in the game, these balls literally look like they're rising, even though they're not, but they look like it. And everyone's throwing fastballs high nowadays and getting guys to swing or pop it up and stuff. So staying on top of the heater is a big thing, and then adjusting to everything else.
Say that you lowering your angle in BP gives you the ability or even a chance to hit the ball in the game. I love that. Alex Bregman had a similar kind of adjustment to where he was adjusting the high fastball. He said that he would miss a full fastball above the ball he was trying to swing at, and that's just kind of the extreme stuff you have to feel, because these baseballs literally look like they're going like that, which is insane.
Yeah.
Some guys got to put a barrel above the hands or whatnot. That's a really unique adjustment. So I want to switch it up here a little bit. So you've played some big time college baseball. You've played a lot of minor league baseball. You played some in the big leagues. Some fans have had to say some crazy stuff. You've had been heckled at some point. What's the craziest thing a fan has said to you?
It's a tough one because, man. I mean, just the normal stuff of like, hey, you suck, or what are you doing? I don't really know. There's never been anything really that crazy that's been said to me. Shoot, man, I'd have to come back to that one. I don't really know. Yeah, there's never been any.
Do you remember the first time? Do you remember the first time you were ever heckled?
No, I don't really remember. I tend to like.
He's locked in.
A good thing. That's probably a great thing. Yeah.
I hear a lot of those guys. I mean, the big ones are like, if you're in, like, I was in Yankee Stadium warming up Rodon and in the bullpen. Those are the guys that are right over you and they're just screaming. They're like, you're a bum, all this stuff. Like, yeah, honestly, right, like, it doesn't even really matter. You know what I mean? That guy's paying to get into your game, so it's like I don't really care. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Do you remember?
Awesome.
Oh, you go. So do you remember, or I'm sure you do, what do you remember, like, what was the experience like for you when you got your call up?
Oh, that was a crazy one. So we spoke about my dad once this podcast, but it was we were in Rochester, New York. I was playing in AAA, and it was Father's Day, and so I'm catching the game. All of a sudden, in the 8th inning, we're winning 1-0. Guy's throwing a shutout starter, and he's throwing still in the 8th, which is like extremely rare in minor leagues because you don't get like a pitch count like the big leagues and stuff like that. So all of a sudden, they pull me out of the game. Like, I hit a ground ball to first, and like, yeah, I ran like 70%. Dude, you're playing 150 games a year. Like, I'm not running 100% on a ground ball to first. I'm not ever beating out. I'm not Ellie De La Cruz out. I come back in, and he's like, hey, you're done. We're going to put in this guy. I'm like, what? Like you're pulling me out of the game for that? And he's like, no, it's not because you're running or whatever. You just, we're gonna give this guy a chance. I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, dude, this guy's a shutout. Like, what are we doing? And then it's really weird. I've learned through the years, but these managers are texting with upper like front office guys during the games and stuff to see what moves need to be made and what guys need to throw and not throw. Like it's crazy, but we go back in the locker room and like nothing was said. Like I'm like, dude, what is going on? And then all of a sudden they called me in the office and told me I was going to the big leagues, and just to make that call back home to my dad and my mom and tell them that's going to the big leagues. I can't ever beat that as a president. Like,
No.
Oh, jeez.
that's so that was super cool. And then my first game was at Wrigley. So it was Sox Cubs. It was pretty packed. It was huge. And then growing up a Marlins boy, my first ever plate appearance was against Steve Cishek, who I grew up watching with the Marlins. So it was wild. And then I ended up playing with him later on. He's awesome. But yeah, a lot of crazy things happened at that time, and had like 15, 20 people there from all over the place. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's awesome. So kind of staying on the same course, what are some of your favorite memories playing? Because you've been in the College World Series, you played, you've been in the big leagues. What's your favorite memories on between the lines?
Oh, there's a bunch of them. Yeah. Playing in the World Series is probably, top 5 College World Series. Some of my favorite memories are, growing up, winning tournaments, winning East Cobb, playing in the USA team with my boys that I grew up with. Those are always going to be up there. But obviously, making my debut, my first at bat technically. So my first plate appearance, I walked, so it wasn't technically an at bat. And then I started the next game, my first ever at bat. I hit a homer.
Whoa!
Yeah, so that was pretty sick.
Welcome to the show, kid.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, there was so much adrenaline. I didn't even feel the bat in my hand. I like hit one of the first balls dead center. I was like, oh my, I need this adrenaline every game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a big one. And then catching Rodon's no hitter in 21 was probably my greatest memory in baseball up to this point. Yeah.
That's sick. You had to feel like you were on top of the world, probably even on cloud 9 for a little too long after that. How were you able to settle back in? Because if I would have hit a home run at my first official plate appearance, I don't know if I'd have been able to focus for the rest of the game.
I don't think I was focused, honestly. I was DH. I was just like kind of all over the place.
Oh, nice, good for you.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I have to go back there and catch after that, so it was pretty awesome. But yeah, I don't even remember being focused after that. I got another hit. I ended up going 2 for 5 that game, and I hit a couple more balls. Like, dude, I literally remember thinking like, oh, this is not that hard. Everyone's the big league. I walked my first plate appearance. I hit a homer. I hit another ball hard. Like this ain't that big of a deal. The next game we flew to Boston. And I was facing David Price, and I punched 4 times, and I was like,
all right, there's a change.
Yeah.
And going off of that, what do you think has been the most difficult arm that you have faced? Regardless where it is, pros or wherever, where is the most difficult at
bat? I mean, it's hard not to say Price just because of what he literally made me look stupid. He was throwing all changeups down and in, and you don't see minor leagues like left on left changeups down and in, and honestly, I was just swinging right through him every single time. But I faced some good ones. Clay Holmes is a good one. I faced him last year. He was throwing 100 at like 20 inches sinker. That was nasty. But, you get some of these lefties in the big leagues, like faced Kershaw once. He's straight over the top, so it's a little bit easier, I would say, for a lefty. I think that's why he kind of dominates both sides. He's not really a lefty specialist type guy, but some of these bullpen arms that are like lefty sidearm, like Tim Hill and Taylor Rogers, these guys are pretty tough for me. So, yeah, I mean, I've never faced. I wish I could face Chapman, but yeah, I've never gotten the box.
So we've been talking about how the fastballs ride so much. You just said Clay Holmes had a sinker that dropped 20 inches. Do you pick a pitch? Do you hitting everything? Are you selling out for one pitch, one spot? What is it when a guy's got that much movement?
Yeah, one pitch, one spot.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, you get guys that just have like nasty stuff that are coming in for one inning. The approach with them is just, you know, if for instance, let's just say Clay Holmes, he throws fastball slider, but it's sinker slider, but he's throwing 100 and his sinker's moving a ton. So I'm just looking for something up in the zone, and trying to get underneath it. Honestly, trying to hit a pop up because the guy's just getting ground ball after ground ball or swing and miss right under your bat. And looking for both pitches, it's just not going to happen. So looking for something up, looking to drive something in the air to left center, and yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's kind of the opposite with those ride guys. You get guys who have a ton of ride on their fastball, and you got to look for something down, and that's when they, sometimes they get you with back foot sliders and stuff like that. But those, way you got to go up there with some type of approach, not trying to hit everything, and.
Yeah, I think it's important that you swung that back foot slider, but that's because you were kind of staying in your approach and you're looking for something down. So there's a right way to fail, and people have to understand that. So if you fail within your approach, that's where you want to be. The moment you step outside of that is when you start to have issues because you're no longer your plan. You might as well go up there with no plan if you're not going to stick to your plan, right? That's
yeah.
very important.
This year. I was going to say that's like the biggest thing I would say. Coming back down to AAA for the first time in a while, there's a lot of younger guys now. When I came up in 19, there's a lot of older guys on my AAA team. That's kind of like the old way. I feel like now AAA is kind of AA, but that's the biggest thing I think our hitting coach and our hitting department is now trying to teach these younger guys that there's a right way to fail. Just because you strike out doesn't mean you failed really. Some of these guys will go up there with an approach down on a ride guy, and then they swing at fastballs up, and it's that's when you failed. If you go up there and you're seeing the ball down, he throws you 3 back foot sliders, and you swing at them. You're looking for the ball down, and it is what it is. Yeah, sometimes you just got to tip your cap, but I would say that's the biggest difference in the mental approach from the minor leagues to the big leagues is the best players in the world. They could strike out and they're like, okay, yeah, that was a good at bat. I executed what I wanted to. It just didn't work out. Yeah, that's it.
That's definitely interesting because, usually, especially I work with a lot of younger ones and they see failure and it's just I struck out no matter what. That's a horrible, horrible thing. So here at the big league level that, hey, as long as it's within the approach, that's still a success. So that's really cool. Kind of switching gears here a little bit. What is it for you with routine? Do you have the same set of things that you do every single day? Does it vary? What do you think?
I have the same hitting routine every single day. The way I do stuff in the clubhouse or preparation work or anything like that kind of varies depending on the day, how I'm feeling or whatever it is. But my hitting routine pretty much stays the same every day. Sometimes there's day games where, 11 or 12 a.m. game or 11 a.m. or 12 o'clock game to where I'm going the cages before the game and, see a live arm or see a couple pitches off the machine and just go out there and swing it for that day. But for the most part, my hitting routine stays the same every day. I do a couple different drills and, then I just go into the game. All I'm trying to do before the game is get a feel of what I want to do against the guy that night. And after that, I just go into it and get after it.
Nice. Now, going off of routine and speaking about your body and how you stay prepped. When I took my visit, I think Gabe was your weightlifting coach, and he told me that after games you'd go in at 11 p.m. and lift after games. He said Zach Collins is Zach Collins because of his work ethic and not because of just the talent. So you're lifting after games and putting in work. Can you kind of talk about you went from playing a 60-game season in college or 50-game season in college to playing 142 right off the bat. Did your routine change, like how you took care of your body, the rate at which you worked out, or the intensity?
Yeah, for sure. So now I have, in college, it was still kind of year round. I went and played summer ball and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, Willie was always like the big workout guy, and I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of followed along with him, and he kind of pushed me
Mm-hmm.
through it and that. But catching in outfield is a little bit different. Like after games, catching you feel a little bit different than maybe if you were chilling in the
Yeah.
outfield first.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was always the one. Him and Gabe were both really good at pushing me to get back in there and stuff. And uh, obviously, there's days where you didn't really want to go, but you had to. But
Right. You get the most out of those days.
yeah, playing 150 plus games. Now I have like a 4 month off season where I can kind of regroup and work out as much as I possibly can, get my body ready for that next season. But during the season, it's really all about feeling good or feeling as good as you can every day. So I've been doing here a lot, and not so much weightlifting. I feel like now it's just kind of like how can each person maintain what they came in with. Um, Nobody's really gaining muscle or gaining any type of strength season. It's really just who can maintain. So nutrition and nutrition and just knowing your body at a certain point is really the two biggest things in my opinion.
So you're off to a hot start so far, Zach. Is there been anything different, or what's been something that you can attest to it being different that's creating some of the success?
Yeah, so the last couple of years I've kind of been in a role where I was either backup or third catcher on a big league team, and I would go into pinch hit, and obviously, when I go into pinch hit, the manager's really looking for one thing, and that's a homer or a game time, whatever it is. So I've always, for the last couple of years, I've had the approach of like, oh, I got to go in there and I got to hit a homer. I got to do something big, because me standing on first in the big leagues doesn't do anybody any good, because you still got to get maybe 3 hits to score me. So, yeah. So this year, being in a different role, I've played every single day again. So haven't really done that since 19, and kind of like we talked about earlier, just switching up my approach. This offseason worked a lot on hitting the ball the other way, and I backed off the plate a little bit last year and the year before. I was pretty much on the plate looking for something in where I can just pull and drive. So I backed off the plate a lot, just looking to get my hands extended through the middle of the field, and it's worked out great. Yeah.
So
it's
once
amazing.
again,
Baseball is so crazy how literally, like, the less you think about doing something, the more you do it. It's like it's the stupidest thing ever, honestly.
Yep. I was literally about to ask you, so how many home runs have you hit on purpose in your career?
Oh my God, maybe less than 10%.
Yeah, that's a higher number than most. I know I've never hit a home run on purpose. I always swing and miss. Always swing and miss.
Yeah, I would say 90% of the time where I'm trying to hit a homer, I'm swinging and missing, or I'm popping up or rolling over or something. But it's crazy how that works.
Yeah,
I remember a couple last year where there was like a 3-0 count, and I was in. I knew a heater was coming right in the middle. Those are the only ones that I've ever hit on purpose, I would say. But
right.
Other than that, it doesn't happen.
Never.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that kind of shows like in the mental side of it, where it's like, hey, if you just keep it simple is going to equal results, instead of like just like, okay, I got to do everything. I
would say like 80%, 80 or 90% of the time when I hit a homer, you guys can attest to this too. Like I come back in, and I'm like, I don't even really remember like seeing that pitch come in. Like it didn't that perfectly. You know what I mean? It just happened. I was with it, kind of hit the ball up the middle, and I was maybe just a little bit early, and I got it right or whatever it was.
Yep.
It's crazy.
So I like what you said right there. You said maybe I was a little bit early and you hit a home run. So that means what is your perfect perfect? Says it must not be a home run. What's your perfect perfect in game?
My perfect perfect is probably, I mean, it doesn't happen often, but just absolutely smoking a line drive right to the center fielder is probably perfect perfect.
I agree.
Because
I agree.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be caught a lot of the time, but that is like you're not going to do it very often. But
Yeah, I think that gives you the most margin for error. If you slightly mishit the ball, and that's like your goal, you're gonna still catch the barrel with some backspin and put it in the gaps or something.
yeah, you're barely early or barely late, you're hitting a double in the gap. So yeah, you need that margin of error. And I saw a video of Joey Votto talking about how he takes BP, and I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but his like ideal like launch angle and stuff in BP is just like a low backspin line drive to center field, and the guy's a Hall of Famer, so obviously he knows what he's talking about. You hear so many times these big dog big leaguers that are talking about how they're just trying to hit like low line drives the other way. And last year in Toronto, I was taking BP a lot, obviously with Vladdy and Bo and these guys who are just perennial all-stars. And it's so crazy how consistent they are with their approach, just line drives the other way, line drives the other way. And Bo's probably the best in baseball at just like fouling a ball off like over the first base duck. Like
it's unbelievable.
That guy's like just getting himself more and more pitches until he gets the one that he can really do damage with. And that's why he's a career 300 hitter, and pretty good too.
It's almost like I see him do it, and it's like he does it on purpose. He's like, I don't want that. Let me spoil it. And that kind of barrel control and like the ability to let the ball get in and still get a piece of it is incredible. But it's not. It doesn't happen on accident. Like he's trained to do these things. It's not like he just shows up and he's wham, 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 wham. Or, oh, if I don't want that pitch, I can foul off. It's because of endless repetition. He's got a very good idea of what he wants to do. Something that I've noted, like you said, a lot of these guys are thinking low angle off the bat. So Joey Votto, Mike Trout, and Freddie Freeman come to mind when you say that. And these are guys with more of an uppercut bat path. Joey Votto's got an uppercut. Freddie Freeman does. So does Mike Trout. I think lower angle off the bat. I think that's really important because we're not saying everybody needs to hit a low line drive, but if you have a more vertical swing, probably you need to lower your sights. Whereas a guy like Juan Soto didn't start hitting better until he went to the home run derby a few years ago, and started hitting bombs. So he said I figured out how to get the ball in the air. Juan Soto's a guy with a very, very flat swing. So for him, he probably has to think higher line drive or something. So I think this all testament to understanding yourself. And figuring out, what adjustments you need to make in BP.
For sure. Everyone has really different swings, and obviously the best in the game do what works best for them. So,
yep.
You hear all about Freddie Freeman just hitting ground balls to short and BP.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Like these guys actually do that kind of stuff. So, I think the best that I've ever been. I have a very uppercut swing too, and I would say a lot of guys with power usually do have an uppercut swing. But the best I've ever been, like when I'm thinking ground ball to short, and I can actually do it in the game, that's probably when I'm at my best. So,
it's a cheat code, guys. Listen up. That's literally a cheat code.
Literally a cheat code. It's a wild thought process and wild game. Yes. You would think, oh, I'm going to hit a ground ball short if I'm trying to do that, and it doesn't actually happen. So
Yep. I just made a video about that, about making adjustments. And I told when guys are hitting a lot of ground balls, it's because you're clipping the top half of the baseball on an upward swing. So take the inside half of the ball and hit a ground ball to the pitcher. Now your intent to do that is not going to make you hit a ground ball. You're probably going to hit a line drive up in the air. And the intent to hit a ground ball is going to keep your body down. So I love that. I think trying to hit a ground ball, stay inside the ball and try to hit a ground ball in the game is literally a cheat code. You trick yourself into succeeding. And that's really what this game is about.
Right.
Definitely. It's all a lot of times thinking opposites. It's really crazy how that can be, where it's like, okay, I'm doing this thing. I'm not trying to hit a pop up, but what am I doing? I'm popping up over and over again. What do I need to do to try to fix that? Okay, think the exact opposite. So a
Mhm.
lot of times it's simpler than you think, as weird as it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
But we're gonna end up here. We are finished up with time here, guys. It's been a great time. We're gonna finish up with one last question. Jenk, take it away. What's our last question?
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could your younger self, let's say your high school self, anything, what would it be?
Oh man. All right, so this one kind of hit me the other day.
Nice.
It was a week ago. Honestly, we were in Omaha. We were playing the Omaha Storm Chasers, AAA, the Royals, and there was a huge. Actually, the week of the College World Series, and there was a huge like kids baseball tournament there. So, um, we're walking out. We just finished a game, day game. We're walking out to dinner that night, and there's like literally there's like 25 10-year-olds in the parking lot of the hotel, and they're all still in their uniform and they're playing wiffle ball. And I was just thinking to myself, like, man, I really enjoyed my younger days in baseball, but if I could just do it all over again, it's like that is the ultimate fun time of baseball. Like that, if I could give any advice, it would just be for kids to like enjoy that as much as they can, because as you get older and as you get better in baseball, it becomes more and more as a business. And not to like play it down or anything, don't get me wrong, baseball is still super fun, but now you're getting paid. Now there's a business aspect of everything, and there's a lot more that comes into it rather than just going to a hotel with 10 of your best friends playing wiffle ball after games and winning tournaments, and playing 4 games a day, and doing all that kind of stuff. So just have it as much fun as you possibly can through your younger career, and high school and college. And college is really, until I made it to the playoffs in the big leagues, the last time that you play baseball to like really win a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get to pro ball, it's all about development and developing certain players to get to the big leagues and all that kind of stuff. But after college, it's like big league playoffs. That's your next opportunity to play a game to win, like to do where you have your 4-hole or your 3-hole bunting a guy over to get
Yep.
a run. It's those are like the best times in baseball, really. So yeah, just having as much fun as you can through those times.
That's a great answer. That's a
Sweet.
great answer.
Awesome.
Hey,
Appreciate having
Zach,
you, man.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Zach, for taking your time and being able to spend us with a little stick talk.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.
All right, thanks again for watching Stick Talk, guys. This is Jank and DR, and